So you got to go back to the Vikings. It's really interesting, Pat. The Vikings were the only team in the NFC last year that scored over 400 points but did not make the playoffs. So the offense was okay.
Right. Welcome back to This Week in Pro Football here, discussing the National Football League, and there's no better man to discuss it with than my next guest, and that is the 19-year host of the NFL Matchup Show and 30 years as a senior analyst for ESPN. That would be the great Sal Paolantonio. How you doing, Sal?
Pat, it's only fitting that the two of us would be back together in your inaugural show because we spent so many years together on This Week in Pro Football, and I'm just honored to be on the show with you.
It's great to have you back. Great to have you back. 19 years on the NFL Matchup Show. That's a pretty impressive record. You are the Matt Dillon of ESPN now with 19 years. I think that's how long Gunsmoke was on CBS.
You know, and it's a great show. It's a show that the players and the coaches watch. And we have Greg Cosell, of course, the founding father of the show at NFL Films, and our quarterback guru. And this year we have a new member of the cast. Darius Butler played 9 years in the NFL as a defensive back with the Indianapolis Colts and the New England Patriots. And you're going to like his breakdown of film, Pat. And our show is on every Saturday on ESPN2, every Saturday morning, and then every Sunday morning on ESPN. And we're all over social media. We're on YouTube. And the experience has grown with the platforms that ESPN is involved with. And to be associated with this show is amazing, and to be associated with your show is amazing too.
I appreciate that very much. Yeah, Matchup Show is a great show. I heartily recommend it to everybody watching this show to get on there. It's not, as I said last week, it's not 5-6 guys yelling at each other and yucking it up. It's serious football talk, and that's cool.
except when I'm involved, then it's not so serious. My job is to keep it light.
That's all right. Well, listen, let's get started here, Sal. I have the usual overdose of stuff I want to speak with you about. But let me start with the home team here. The Eagles coming off a win over Detroit. Well, that's not unexpected. So I don't think you get many kudos for that. But tell me what you think going into this game and what your thoughts are about this Minnesota team. You go from Zimmer to O'Connell, a different design in the way the Vikings play offense.
Well, let me just say one thing before I start about the Vikings, and that is, Pat, it's really hard to win on the road in the NFL. It's really hard to win on the road week one in the NFL against a team that's been rejuvenated like the Detroit Lions. And with that defense that blitzed so much last week, the Eagles were, under duress a lot offensively, and you really have to give a lot of credit to Jalen Hurts. 333 yards of total offense is a lot for a quarterback. He carried the team offensively when the defense came up short. And against this Vikings team, Kevin O'Connell, they're already penciling him in, right, as the coach of the year in the NFL after 1 week.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting what his game plan is after watching 1 week of football. Throw it to Justin Jefferson. That's it.
Yeah, that was certainly last week's plan. You're right.
And until they start double teaming that young man, he's going to continue to dominate. And, Jonathan Gannon, for all the things he's got to do this week, fix the tackling, fix the urgency, whatever scheme they're getting this week, they better account for Justin Jefferson on every single down, and he will kill them.
Certainly, Sal, the Packers didn't. I was amazed at how wide open he was at certain points. And Jefferson was effusive in his praise during the preseason of the offense that O'Connell was installing as the league continues to see this Sean McVay wave crest across it. And especially coming from a Mike Zimmer offense, much more plodding and much more deliberate. The Vikings going to be a much tougher out for the Eagles defense than they saw last week in Detroit.
Oh, they certainly are. And, the Rams' way of doing things, and you know it as well as anybody, a guy who's watched the Rams and watched McVay's offense, they want to spread it out, and they want to pass first And then when you're softened up, they'll run the football.
Right.
The difference between the Rams and the Vikings is the Vikings actually have a big back who they can use as the alternative dose, and that is Dalvin Cook. So you got to go back to the Vikings. It's really interesting, Pat. The Vikings were the only team in the NFC last year that scored over 400 points but did not make the playoffs. So the offense was okay last year.
Right.
But they brought in Kevin O'Connell, and he brought in Mike Pettin as assistant head coach from the Packers, who got let go by the Packers 2 years ago.
Right.
And he's helping out Ed Donatel with that 3-4 defense. And they are in attack mode. They're healthy defensively, and they got after Aaron Rodgers. They played matchup zone, and then they just got after Aaron Rodgers, and it really worked.
It certainly did last week. Of course, you don't know how much was Green Bay was really devoid of wide receivers, and it really showed. It showed in the first play of the game. But Philadelphia now comes in here, Sal, 1-0. A lot of expectations in Philadelphia this year. I didn't get to talk to you about it last week. Are the expectations, in your opinion, justified for the Eagles, or is it fair to say that this is a measuring stick game for them against a team that they could see come January?
Yeah, well, they have to correct some things defensively, and Jonathan Gannon said that. You can talk about scheme, you can talk about tactics, you can talk about personnel, you can talk about formations, whatever you want. But the bottom line is the Lions averaged 19 points a game last year, and they scored 35. And they got better, but they didn't get that much better, Pat.
Right.
So whatever they do this week, it's going to be a lot tougher because, Kirk Cousins has mobility, and they have variation on their offense, and they have Justin Jefferson, who's a terrific player, and so is Adam Thielen. So, I think this is a real tough out for a home opener on Monday Night Football. I do. I think so, too. So I think you're right about that. So Eagle fans better be ready. It's not going to be a walk for Philadelphia come Monday night. But you, Sal, are in the booth for the third year, actually doing analysis for NFL games. And the game you're at this week is New England traveling to Pittsburgh, right? It is. I'm with Chris Carlin. And I got to tell you, Pat, in studying film and being involved with the matchup show, now I get to use a lot of that stuff during the week in analyzing the game. And there's really no bigger thrill than calling a game. It's fantastic, and I'm looking forward to it. And, you mentioned the AFC East, and you mentioned going 0-2.
Right.
I mean, Pat, is there such a thing as a must-win game in week 2 for the Patriots?
Yeah.
Because, Pat, they lost last week 20-7, looked bad doing it.
Right.
If they don't beat the Steelers, then they have to play Baltimore. No picnic.
Nope.
And then they got to go to Green Bay. I mean, Pat, it's certainly plausible losing to Pittsburgh. They are looking at 0-4, Pat.
Yeah. That's a real possibility. Sal, am surprised. Pittsburgh's a 2-point dog here at home. But anyway, so somebody's looking at New England as bouncing back here. But it's going to be a tough game for the Patriots, I think. Pittsburgh at home is, as you mentioned, how hard it is to win on the road anywhere. That is not an easy place to win football games.
It's not. And I'll give you some numbers. You want to talk about numbers? The Steelers under Mike Tomlin are 44-24-2 against the spread as underdogs. 44-24-2 against the spread as dogs. Since Tomlin's first season, 2007, the Steelers are the only team, Pat, over 500 as an underdog.
How about that? That's a great one, Sal. But I just want to tell you 2 words in terms of your work in the booth, and that is Ray Scott. If you could just remember.
But I'm not doing play-by-play.
That's right. I know that. So you have to tell Chris that. Ray Scott.
No, Chris is a wonderful professional and very funny and very interesting and really knows the game. If I could emulate anybody, boy, that would be tough. As an analyst who was of few words, they're tough to come by, right, Pat?
I know, that's true. I know you do a great job. Let's get around the NFC East, Sal, in the few minutes I got left with you. I thought a really inspiring win for the Giants last week, a team that hasn't won their opener, I think, since Ali Sherman was coach. And wins last week.
Now you're dating yourself, Pat.
I know. That's not hard to do. All you got to do is look at me. Everybody's dating me. But the Giants win in Tennessee with a gutsy call by Dable at the end of the game. Have you changed your mind about the Giants at all? Or is it a one-off, or is there a possibility the Giants could be a 500 team this year?
Well, I was a little bullish on the Giants because of Wink Martindale, because their defensive coordinator coming over from Baltimore was going to add an extra, firepower to what they do defensively. But I was really, really impressed with their offensive line play and their scheme that Brian Daboll put into place.
Yeah.
But Daniel Jones almost gave the game away, and they needed a missed field goal in order to win the game, Pat. I know. So
that is true.
But I do, this week against Carolina, the thing is, which quarterback will take care of the football will win that game. But here's the thing, so that Carolina is going to load up the box.
Right.
They're going to put 8-9 guys in the box. They're not going to let Barkley just run free at MetLife Stadium, get that crowd into it.
Right.
They're going to say, all right, Daniel Jones, you go beat us.
Beat us. Right. That's right. And the odds of that happening aren't good. But Carolina, as we talked about a few minutes ago, they're an NFC team staring already at 0-1. And this is a game both teams, I'm sure, go into it thinking they're going to win. Sal, the other team I want to talk to you about is the Dallas Cowboys. Now, obviously, they've been a talk of the whole NFL since a disastrous rollout on Sunday Night Football, even before Dak Prescott got hurt. Give me your thoughts about the Cowboys, not just going into now they got to host Cincinnati, one of the teams coming off a loss that doesn't want to go 0-2, but just for the next month or so, can the Cowboys circle the wagons?
No, I don't think so. I think Dallas is done, Pat. I really do. They didn't look good when Dak Prescott was in there.
Right.
Going back to blitz numbers, I got them out. I printed them out. So I'm looking at the Tampa Bay Bucks. And Todd Bowles, who we know loves to blitz, he blitzed 30% of the time, 32% of the time, and they were all over that Dallas offensive line. And I expect the Bengals, who, in my opinion, have a very good defense, to just go after the Dallas offense from the get-go. I mean, the Bengals do not want to start 0-2.
No.
And boy, oh boy, the Cowboys at 0-2, then the wheels will completely fall. I don't see how the Cowboys can win the division now. I really don't.
No, and even for Dallas, how you mentioned about how New England is facing a tough run. If you look at the Cowboys' schedule coming out of the gate now, they've already lost to Tampa Bay. They got Cincinnati. They have a Monday nighter with the Giants. In a couple of weeks, they get the Rams and the Eagles. Could go south for the Cowboys very quickly.
Yes.
So one other game I want you to comment on is the NFC South game that I said in my open was I think another big early season tilt, and that's Tampa Bay going to New Orleans. New Orleans escapes because they played a team that knows and is comfortable with losing. They escaped from Atlanta with a win. Tampa Bay, I thought Sal looked very workmanlike in that win over Dallas. What do you think happens down south?
Well, it doesn't look like Tom Brady can move very well. So, it's blitz, blitz, blitz right up the middle. And don't let him get the ball out of his hands quickly. So you have to play man-to-man at the line of scrimmage. Don't allow a free release and just get after him, because the ball's going to come out in under 3 seconds.
Right.
And New Orleans has had so much success against Brady. So I expect I expect New Orleans to win this game. I do.
I think it's interesting. I think the same thing, even though usually when I look at games, I look at what's the point spread between the two quarterbacks. And obviously Tampa has the big edge here. But I think the rest of everything else goes to the Saints. I think it's going to be a tough spot for Tampa to win this.
Well, I do. But, the thing is, Todd Bowles and that defense right now, all he wants to do is attack, because he's got his secondary fixed,
right.
And they're healthy. And so he feels a sense of security that he didn't have last year. And so he'll come after Jameis Winston big time in this game for sure, 100%. I think this is absolutely one of the more interesting games because both of these quarterbacks will be under duress.
Yeah. All right, Sal, well, that flew by. Would you believe that segment is over? It just flew by. I very much appreciate you joining me. I look forward to having you on next week. And as many times as I could drag you into this set throughout the season, I certainly wish you all the luck with that burgeoning analyst career. I think that's great. And I know you're doing a hell of a job with that. And we'll see you Monday night, right, at the link.
Yes, we will. And Pat, good luck with the show. I'm honored to be on with you again. I miss working with you. It's great to be on with you again. And thanks for promoting the matchup show. And I know you're a big fan, and we love the promotion.
All right, Sal. I appreciate it. Thanks very much, pal. All right, great Sal Paolantonio joining me here, and hopefully he'll join me many weeks throughout the season. Let me get centered here. Xander, before we go to break here, let me get my trivia question out. Nobody answered it last week. The answer to my question last week, which was name me the NFL's leading active rusher in career rushing yards. The answer was Mark Ingram of the Saints. No one got it to me. Let's get this going here. At TWIPF Pat on Twitter. I'd like to get as many follows as I can at TWIPF Pat. You could also shoot a text or a tweet to at JAKIB Sports. This week's question, pretty straightforward. All right. Since the merger, 1970, name me the team with the most playoff berths. Name me the NFL team with the most playoff berths since the merger. Now, I'll tell you right out, it's not Detroit. All right. So there. Now you're down to 31. At TWIPF Pat, at JAKIB Sports. Give me an answer. You get a fabulous This Week in Pro Football t-shirt. All right. When we get back, I'm going to be joined by, we're going to talk some fantasy football with my friend Tony Cutillo from SiriusXM. A lot to talk about there already in a busy NFL landscape. We'll be right back on This Week in Pro Football.